In my last video, I discussed how considerations of morality when it comes to game design can present challenges for developers as they try to maintain narrative consistency. And if that last sentence makes you scratch your head, I would suggest that you review my last video before moving on. A lot of the concepts discussed here will build upon that video. For this video, we are going to do what I should have done in the last video and provide a working definition of morality for the purposes of future discussions. After that, we will discuss how video games often fail to convey moral viewpoints in their games. Combined with this in the previous video, we will finally have a baseline to start getting into specifics in future videos. Enough with the blah blah blah, let's get to it. So what exactly is morality? Well, let's start with talking about what it isn't. What morality is not is relative. That is, morality is not defined by individuals and is not relative to an individual's perspective. The full discussion of why this view is incoherent is beyond the scope of this video. So with that in mind, we can define the concept of good in the following manner. Good can be thought of roughly as thoughts, words, and actions that are oriented toward the proper fulfillment of a human's ordered potential. In other words, any thought or action that leads to a human's properly ordered flourishing. Now, properly ordered is a term that needs a bit of defining. It means that human nature has a particular set of actions that by nature benefit the human doing them in human society. A human's nature is oriented toward doing things that help himself and society reach their full potential. Now, this does not mean that our inclinations are toward this orientation. Only that a human's nature is oriented or directed toward particular goals. In fact, what makes a human a moral agent is that a human can choose to act in opposition to that ordering. That's what's referred to as evil. Admittedly, there's a bit of hand-waving in this definition for the purposes of brevity. But this should be sufficient for the purposes of this discussion. And now that we have a kind of working definition of morality, we can begin discussing it in the context of games. Now, I have to level with you. You may want to sit down for this. This may be hard for you to hear, but I'm just going to come out and say it. People have differing moral views. I know it's shocking. Oh, it isn't? Huh. Well, the way game developers write their game story and/or morality evaluation mechanics, you'd think they didn't know. Games are really hit or miss when it comes to communicating moral concepts and how the game designers view morality. And given how games incorporate human action into their narratives, it's even more important to inform the consumer the perspective the game designers have in mind. Part of the problem is that game designers often rely on commonly held universals to communicate the situations the game presents, i.e. hugging people is good and murdering people is bad. These floor aspects of morality lead to pretty obvious choices that require no exposition of more nuanced concepts. Unfortunately, this leads to the problem of what's referred to as kiss the baby, kick the baby dichotomy of moral choices. If the game does offer a choice, it's usually the kind where there is an obvious choice that makes you a paragon of virtue or the most heinous person on the planet. If this sounds familiar, it's because I covered this binary choice type in my morality systems video, but it's been a problem for a long time in video games, even those that do not try to track moral progress. If there was one constant type of comment I got from my morality systems videos, that games that feature morality-centric mechanics have a tough time communicating how the game evaluates good and evil. Time after time, examples were presented where the commenter's evaluation of the situation clashed with the game's evaluation. As games have evolved, the way game stories are written and the design of games haven't caught up to the complexity that the stories are trying to convey from a moral standpoint. The moral principles that drive narrative elements aren't presented clearly, let alone integrated into the choices games typically present. The resulting frustration that gamers have from this causes a disconnect from the subject matter and makes for a subpar experience. In my mind, the root cause of this problem is that game designers still fall into the trap of assuming a common moral framework shared between gamer and designer. But I don't think that the designers are forcing a moral framework so much as not enough thought is brought into the possible perspectives that can be brought into particular moral choices. And this consideration is something unique to video games. I mean, sure, authors of other media think about the viewpoints of their audience on occasion, but video games have to be built with the knowledge that gamers will help shape the whole experience. And if proper attention isn't given to the myriad of philosophies that gamers come into the experience with, ultimately that experience will come up short. Now let's be clear what I mean by taking into consideration. I'm not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that all games should pander to all moral views. At best, you get the kiss the baby, kick the baby type of moral choices and story. No, what game designers need to do is learn how to communicate the moral philosophy that the game adheres to. A player will bring his moral philosophy into a story-driven game when he makes decisions, and because of this, players will fill in the blanks left by game designers when making decisions without proper context. Players understand that they are stepping into a role when playing such games and often derive enjoyment in crafting a consistent character. But there's nothing more frustrating than having to make a decision guiding a good character only to find that the game evaluates it as an evil decision without sufficient explanation. Now, there are all kinds of solutions to this problem that have been tried, but this video is already getting long as it is. So next time we will explore possible solutions to these in game design. That's all for now. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video to the end. If you like more of this, you can click on the subscribe link at the bottom, and as you can see, there are a couple of other videos that you can click on as well. One of them is one of my prior reviews or another content video, and the other one is going to be a playthrough that I'm doing. So feel free to click on either one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks very much.